In this lesson, we're going to talk about customizing NATRON using the preferences. In the previous video, we focused on the layout and we saw we can save or export a layout with the NL format, and then how we can reopen it. So how we can customize and also how we can restore everything if we don't like our customized interface anymore. So in the edit, we find well, in the file menu first, we saw all the features here like opening, saving, reloading, and quitting. So these are really basic features. We're gonna kind of close the menus in this video. Now, next one is gonna be the edit. In the edit, we have undo, we have redo, which means I can go back and forth with my actions. I can also set a different level of undo so that I can go even further back on or even further forward, and that's going to happen in the preferences. So all the things that about customizing um, the overall software rather than just the layout, they're going to be found here in the preferences panel. And some of these are really important at the beginning. Some others are like a little bit more advanced, so you may want to come back here later. You want to study them. And anytime you can also restore the defaults also right here. So if you think you did something too extreme or that doesn't look right, you can always restore to defaults and start again. Now, first of all, you can, for example, activate the check for the updates on startup. So if there are like newer versions of NATRON, perhaps you want to download it and use them and save them. And also you can trigger here the autosave by choosing how many seconds you want to have a delay from the last action. So if you do an action, that action is kind of going to be stored into the history, and after 5 seconds also is going to be saved. It's going to be saved. Your file is going to be saved. If you didn't save your project already, you can enable the autosave also for unsaved projects or disable it depending on your needs. And then you can also increase the save versions if you don't wanna override. Now let's go for here. I don't wanna spend too much time in things that are too technical or that are again kind of advanced. Just gonna jump to the most important things in my opinion that you need to know at the beginning. So project setup. Here you can see here if you want the first image read to set the project format. We saw this thing previously. So when we start to a new document and we import the first image, which is the first video or the first source, the project is going to take the information from there and is going to apply it to the project format. So you can decide if you want to uncheck that and you want like every time you don't want the first read to affect the project format, or auto preview enabled for the new projects. You may want to turn off the auto preview. I think auto preview is also really important. Now, one of the most important things is the caching, and this is not just for NATRON. This is for any software that does like video editing, video montage, video effects, video compositing. Now, anything that works with videos, it tends to create really big, let's say, archives, and really big. It tends to use a big space in your hard disk. Now, you can anytime you can wipe the disk cache by clicking on that little button in there. So anytime you think that your hard disk is getting full, is getting filled with archive data, you can always delete the cache. Now, for example, when you play back your animation or your video or your footage in the viewer panel, we saw that you get that green line. That green line represents the memorization of some data, of some archived information that's gonna go in the cache. Now you can use aggressive caching, which means you're gonna increase the caching of, you can see here all the description, anything basically, any node, and not by just enabling the option force caching parameter in the single node. So you can basically memorize anything here, and that's going to occupy more space. So you can decide if you want that on or off. It's up to you. If you want to understand this more, again, go check in the manual. So let's see some other important thing here. Another important thing is the RAM. Right now, if I hold over my mouse on top of this first option here, it's going to show me how much RAM I have. So you can see that my RAM in my computer is about 32 gigabyte, almost 32 gigabyte. So I can define a percentage of that total that I want to use with NATRON. In this case, it's set to 50, which means I'm using almost 16 gigabyte. Now, if you want, you can increase that value, but be careful not to increase it too much. You need to leave some RAM for the operative system first, and also for other applications. And here you can see that the system RAM to keep free is already set up, and it's about 20%. It's about 6 giga or 7 gigabyte. So right now we still have 20 gigabyte more for, sorry, 20% of the gigas for other applications, which is also important. So that's the first two concern the RAMs. These other two, they concern the memorization of the data in the hard disks. So that's more about the size. The first one is more about the speed because it's about the RAM, it's about the temporary save, also the undue levels and all that stuff. The second one is about memorizing and filling up a disk space. And here we can define the disk cache path. Now, the disk cache path, we can define a specific folder for the cache. And especially if you have more than one hard disk, that's going to be useful because you're going to maintain your operative system disk cleaner and more empty, and send all the data that you want to store in a different hard disk. And this is a suggested thing you can do to install an extra hard disk. Now, this one here is the one that you saw before is not the actual default cache path, but the default cache path is down there. Is C user JBD app data. Well, I'm going to show you right here. This is the folder. So in this folder, which is different from the one again that you see when you click on the little folder, this is where NATRON is storing everything, all the cache, without if we don't say anything. So it's in the operating system, in the users, in app data, which is kind of a hidden folder that you need to like make it show with a specific fix of the operating system, and then local, and you need to get into this directory if you want to manage the cache from here. So we can see we have two folders in this NATRON folder. We have the cache, and you can see all the files that have been already stored because we're using now NATRON since 2 or 3 lessons. And then we have autosaves there. Now, if we go right click and properties on the cache folder, we can see the size. It's almost 2 gigabyte. And we didn't do much. We just do little examples in this first lessons. So it already get to a really high level of space occupied by this data. So that's why we need to keep an eye on the cache, and that's not too technical to begin. You need to understand this from the beginning. Now, if you click on wipe disk cache, you're gonna wipe out that. You're gonna clean everything. That means you're gonna if you're previewing something, you need to run again the preview back. But I'm gonna show you that later. Let's go in the cache folder. Right click and see the size now. Now you see the size is way smaller than the beginning. It's kind of like 5 megabytes. So really, we wipe out everything. That's an example of what you're doing. Now, if you have only the operative system disk, it's fine. I'm using an SSD disk, which is solid state drive disk. And these are, suggested because they are faster. But also be careful because they break suddenly without any, advice. While if you use an hard disk drive, the old HDD, they are a little bit slower. You can get pretty fast, but they're never going to be as fast as an SSD. But they tend to break or to be corrupted, little by little. You can see some signs of the decay of the hard disk, so you can save the files before the hard disk